One thing that I got a lot of questions about last night, I had probably 8 people come up to me last night from the engineering side to ask about how to mix Christy's vocal mic. Some of you noticed that her mic technique is a little bit unconventional. So I would say a couple of things about that. First, there are tools that I'm using at front of house to help mitigate some of that, because she's a great leader, a great singer, but she's most concerned with the moment. And so if her eyes are closed and she's worshiping and she's trying to lead effectively, if sometimes it's here and sometimes it's here and sometimes it's here, we've got to figure out a way to partner together in that, because the worst thing I can do is say, without a relationship and without any leverage relationally to have a conversation, the worst thing I can say as an engineer is, singers, you got to eat your mic. Come on, guys, eat your mic. And they don't know what that means. And so if we can find a way to create a common language around some of those things, it's a great thing. But specifically for last night, we have tools like the C6 plugin from Waves, where Steven's back there and he's going to kind of help demonstrate some of this. So this is Christy's mic from last night that I'm holding. And so you'll notice that what C6 is, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a multi-band dynamic compressor. And so we're able to kind of dial in different aspects of the tone that we want to use compression for, to be able to manage some of the levels instead of relying just on the fader volume. Because if I've got a lot of things to worry about mix-wise, that, I have a finger on her fader, but I can't focus solely on that because everybody else is doing their thing too. So I've got to be able to navigate an entire mix. But you'll notice, even when I'm talking, if I move the mic around, it's not nearly as drastic as it would be if that plugin wasn't engaged, because of the way that it's doing what it's doing. So I think Steven has it up, and I think we might be able to get a shot of what it's doing. So typically, if I bring the mic really close and I'm holding it like I would if I was, quote, eating the mic, there's a proximity effect that happens with the microphone, and just the tonality darkens and it gets a little less thin. And so that's what's supposed to happen with the microphone. The closer the sound is to the source, you get this proximity effect. And so what we're doing with the compressor, you can see that low band is really digging in with some gain reduction. Can you see the low frequency stuff to the left? As I'm talking louder and getting closer to the mic, it's really kind of helping to compress some of that sound. So then when I get away from it, it's doing less, but you're not really getting much less volume. There's a thing for those of you who don't know. How many singers in the room? A lot. Okay, great.
Bless
so
you.
there is a, bless you. There is a, it's physics, so it's kind of the law. There's this principle called the inverse square law. And those of you who are engineers, if you've tried to talk to your singers about the inverse square law and failed, let's maybe not refer to it as the inverse square law. But basically what it says is that for every doubling of distance from the sound source, there's a 6 dB reduction in volume. Well, in terms of perceived volume, 10 dB is about half of our perceived volume. So can you take C6 out for a second? And hopefully we won't get crazy with feedback and stuff, but I just want to illustrate the inverse square law if I can. So here's proximity effect. So automatically you can see the difference, right? But so if the mic is an inch away from my face, you have a certain volume and a certain tonality. If it's 2 inches away from my face, that volume is a lot less. And then you double that distance again, and it's out here. So singers, eat the mic. But I'm not going to go to my singers and say, you got to eat the mic. I want to be able to explain to them why, right? So just that simple illustration can communicate to your singers why we say that. And what does this do if the mic's out here? Not only does it decrease the volume, but then any sort of shielding that my head was providing against those cymbals is gone, right? So now we've got cymbal bleed, and we've got other stage volume, and we've got other singers that are getting into this mic. So if we can find a way to be instructive and constructive to our singers so that we can say, I'm not just telling you to eat the mic because I don't want to move a fader. It's because of how it changes the tonality and how it helps your ear mix, right? So then we have tools like compression that we can put in your in-ears so that if you are close to the mic and you're singing loud, it's not sounding super loud in your ears because the tone is being compressed. So if we put C6 back in, so if you do have a singer who's just all over the place because of their engagement or, distraction or whatever it might be, tools like this can really help. So now if it's back in and I slowly back the mic off, the compressor is kind of making up for some of this distance issue. Can you hear how it's not nearly as drastic? And then when I do get close, it's not nearly as drastic on the proximity effect side because the compressor is doing the gain reduction for me. So you guys are hearing this in your ears. Is that a pretty compelling difference?
Absolutely.